Now let's move on to urinary system. The human urinary system plays an important role in homeostasis. So our kidney is very important. So urinary system is made up of these other parts, these other structures. Of course, the kidneys, ureters, bladder, and the urethra. And the function of the urinary system is to excrete nitrogenous compound waste such as urea, as well as to regulate the volume of the body fluids, the blood osmotic pressure, the iron concentrations in the body fluids, electrolyte content, and the blood pH. So you see how essential is this system. Now let's look at the structure, functions of the kidneys. The kidneys consist of the cortex and medulla. Right, these two parts, the outer and the inner. So urine is formed in the kidneys, will flow into the pelvis. Okay, so now this is the one. You have the cortex and you have the medulla inner. Okay, and this is the pelvis. This is the region. Okay, so the kidneys has got two main functions: excretion of the nitrogenous waste, that is urine, nitrogenous waste such as urea, excess water in the form of urine. Another function is osmoregulation, and this is the one. Volume of the body fluids, the blood osmotic pressure, the iron concentrations, and electrolyte content. Now, as an excretory organ, we're talking about excretion, the first main function. The kidney will excrete toxic waste, and that is the nitrogenous waste, urea, uric acid, ammonia, creatinine, from the protein, because we cannot keep excess protein like how we keep glucose in the form of glycogen. We cannot keep excess protein, so it has to be excreted. So as an osmoregulatory organ, this is the second function over here, the kidney will work to control the total volume of water in the body fluids, concentrations of ions, the blood osmotic pressure, which is the concentration of dissolved materials and volume of blood and body fluids, as well as the electrolyte content, pH of the blood and body fluids. Okay, remember these two main functions. Now, these are the kidneys. So you can see over here, some lag happens. So this is the renal artery, and you have the renal vein depicted by blue. You have the ureter, and that is this bladder, and the urethra. Now the renal artery will carry oxygenated blood from the heart to the kidney. Now this is it. Whereas the renal vein will carry the oxygenated blood from the kidney back to the heart. Okay. Now let's look at the formation of urine. There are three major processes: ultrafiltration, reabsorption, and secretion. It's actually a complex process, but it's okay. You can just follow through, and maybe later on You have to look at the videos. You have to watch the videos on the formation of urine. Okay, there are a lot of new terms over here, but let's look at what is nephron. Nephron is the functional unit of the kidney, and each kidney has got millions of these nephrons. So the nephron is made up of Bowman's capsule, the glomerulus, and the renal tubules. So, okay, let's see if you have the picture. Now this is it, the Bowman's capsule. You get to see number 1 over here with the glomerulus, and these are the tubules, lots of tubules with different parts, and the names has got the specific names for the tubules. So what is Bowman's capsule? It is a cup-shaped. Okay, as you can see just now, contains clusters of blood capillaries, and that is what we call the glomerulus. So the glomerulus is formed from the afferent arteriole branching from the renal artery. Okay, from the renal artery, and the glomerulus merged again to form the efferent arteriole. So the renal tubules, we have the proximal, convoluted. Okay, it's like looping. A lot of complex loops over here, tubules, the loop of Henle. And if we have proximal, definitely we'll have the distal convoluted tubule. And there is this loop of Henle, which is a long U-shaped tubule that extends to the renal medulla, and the distal convoluted tubules of several nephrons join together in a collecting duct. So the produced urine will flow from the collecting duct into the ureter. Now, so what is this all about? Not to worry, just relaxed, but you have to go through it one by one. So this is the renal artery, and you have these afferent arterioles. Okay, going in, then this is the blood capillaries, network of blood capillaries, and this is the Bowman's capsule. Okay, going out, this is the efferent arteriole, and this is the proximal convoluted tubules. You see they are all surrounded by these blood vessels, the arterioles. Okay, so this is the loop of Henle, is a U-shaped, right? And you can see what are these? Water. Okay, you'll notice the color, notice the indicator over here, and this is the distal convoluted tubules over here. Just now we have the proximal, so it is at the cortex region, the outer region, and the medulla region over here. This is the collecting duct. Okay, so the process filtrate from other nephrons. So just now we said the formation of urine comprises of 3 processes, which is ultrafiltration, reabsorption, and another one is secretion. So let's look at what happens first in the Bowman's capsule. So the blood entering the glomerulus is under high hydrostatic pressure. Okay, this is for sure because the diameter of the afferent arteriole is larger than the diameter of the efferent arteriole. So this pressure will cause ultrafiltration to happen. That means the fluid will be forced. It says seeps through the walls of the glomerulus capillaries into the cavity of the Bowman's capsule. Yeah, can you see this? Full flow of the filtrate. You see the black arrow over here? So this blood flowing, because of the difference in diameter, it is being forced to go into this cavity, and that is the Bowman's capsule. So since it is being filtered, so we say this process is ultrafiltration. Okay, so the the fluid that enters the Bowman's capsule is known as the glomerular filtrate. So it has got same composition as the blood plasma, but does not contain red blood cells, platelets, and plasma proteins. So the red blood cells and the plasma proteins will remain in the blood flowing to the efferent arteriole because of the size of these substances is too large to go through or to seep out of the glomerulus. Okay, so ultrafiltration have to happen first. Okay, next is reabsorption at the proximal convoluted tubules. Reabsorption. Okay, so it occurs along the tubule, the renal tubule. So dissolved substances will permeate across the renal tubular walls into the blood capillary network. So in proximal convoluted tubules, the ions, the sodium ions, are actively pumped into the blood capillary network, and the chloride ions are passively absorbed. So actively pumped, so that means it's an active transport, and another one passively transported. So the reabsorption of 100% of glucose and amino acids also occurs through active transport. Okay, so the movement of dissolved substances into the blood capillary network will reduce the concentration of the dissolved substances in the glomerular filtrate. Okay, but will increase the concentration of dissolved substances in the blood capillaries. So what will happen is, as a result, water will enter the blood capillaries through osmosis. There you can see whether it is passive transport, active transport, and osmosis. So this is water, so it goes through from this tubule, reabsorbed back to the blood capillaries, to the blood vessels, and that is through osmosis. Okay, for sodium ions, it is through active transports, and this green one is passive transport, and that is the transport of chloride ions. So here 100% of there you can see over here as well. Now this is glucose, amino acids, and it is through active transport as well. Can you see that? Okay. So water diffuse into the blood capillaries through osmosis. So in this part, which is the proximal convoluted tubules, there is reabsorption of this glomerular filtrate. Glomerular filtrate, use the term glomerular filtrate, okay, which is from the Bowman's capsule. Okay, so that means in here, this the fluid over here is called the glomerular filtrate, because it is from here, it is filtrated into here, this Bowman's capsule. Okay, now let's move on to the next one, which is at the loop of Henle as well as the distal convoluted tubules. Water is being continually reabsorbed, okay, and that is through osmosis, and sodium ions are reabsorbed by active transport. Okay, let's go back and see the picture. Yeah, by active transport now. See? At the distal convoluted tubule as well as the loop of Henle. So in distal convoluted tubules, more water, sodium, chloride ions are being reabsorbed, and the amount of water and salts reabsorbed depends on the water and salt content in the blood. Okay, so if you drink less water, there will be less water being, there will be more, your body will have to regulate the volume of water. Okay, next process is secretion. Okay, it is different from reabsorption. It is a process of secreting whatever that is not needed, and those are the waste materials in the blood filter earlier in the into the renal tubules. And it is an opposite process to the reabsorption process. So it also occurs along the renal tubule and collecting duct, but is most active at the distal convoluted tubule. Okay, and secretion happens through simple diffusion, active transport. So what are the substances that are secreted? It includes hydrogen ions, potassium ions, ammonium ions, urea, creatinine, toxic substances, and drugs. So remember, secretion is about throwing away those waste materials, those that are not needed. So secretions get rid of toxic waste and helps to regulate the levels of ions in the blood. Okay, let's look at the picture. So you see these are the urea. Okay, so it is pointing to the tubule. Okay, so that means we don't want it, we want to throw it away. Okay, because later on there will be this formation of urine. Those that we don't want will have to be urinated out. Those that we want will be absorbed back to the blood capillaries, okay, into the bloodstream. Those that we don't want, we will throw it back into the tubule. Okay, now urine formation. When the renal fluid reaches the collecting duct, only a small amount of salts are left, and most of the water has been absorbed back into the bloodstream. So the remaining renal fluid is now called urine, and it will flow down to the collecting duct. So a small amount of urea diffuses out into the surrounding fluid and the blood capillaries due to the small molecular size. Hence, urine contains water, urea, sodium chloride, salt, uric acid, and creatinine. And after leaving the collecting duct, it will flow through the ureter to the bladder, urinary bladder. And when the urinary bladder is full, urine will be passed out of the body through urethra. Okay, and we say it is finally being excreted